This is episode 6 of the FilmTell podcast. Here's my interview with Adam Graham, a film critic for the Detroit News. You can also see him on Critically Speaking on Fox 2 in Detroit. We recorded this interview on September 26th outside the Meridian Coffee Shop. Now here's the interview with Adam Graham. Before we jump into the interview with Adam Graham, I want to mention that this episode's featured musician is Mirrorvein with the song Drenched. For me, it's like if you're going to amplify the acting, make it odd, like the wardrobe has to be like that way. The sets have to be that way. Like everything needs to be that. You can't just have one element because it feels all off. But if it's for that movie, I'm like, it's either the worst movie that's been made in 10 years or the best movie he's ever made. Ever. Because it has like that Dracula influence, like that style. And like people I remember like Dracula came out, like people were like, that's too stylized. And now it's like appreciated 30 years later.
Yeah.
And even in the Q&A that was off the rails. That the moderator could not.
No, and did you see the moderator?
Oh yeah.
I was like, bro, like, take a chill. It ain't that deep. I mean, I know that it is because you got Francis Ford and De Niro and Spike up there, but like, act like you've been here before, my guy.
Were you familiar with him at all?
No.
Yeah, but they're like.
Do you know him?
No. But the best decision someone had during that time was putting De Niro in the middle of Spike Lee and Coppola, because if they had De Niro at the end, then they would just ignore him because he was not going to talk.
Right.
But putting him in the middle,
right.
they have to talk over him, and someone was thinking about that. And, but yeah, when he was shaking or not, like when Coppola said like, oh, I don't have a style, like when you think of my movies, it's like there's Godfather, there's Apocalypse Now, and then there's like Jack and Outsiders and Dracula. And I'm like, oh yeah, you don't really have a style. And like he's just like pushing it. I'm like, that's lean it, like go like ask about that. And then like they just completely moved on, and then like
and it was an odd thing because we also all wanted the movie to start nationwide, right? And so you felt like the ticking clock. And I think they only had 15 minutes. You get those 3 on a stage, because that better be 2 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're trying to wrap this up kind of politely. And like you said, De Niro by the end, he's getting into it, only because he's talking about Trump.
Yeah.
But at least he's engaged. And you got Spike kind of whiling over there in the corner. No, it was like, look, man, that night was an event.
Yeah.
The movie, the preamble. Give me that.
And then how it ends with the modern day Pledge of Allegiance? What was it?
Yeah,
and then just like, this is so on, like, when satire is so on the nose, it doesn't work. Like it's just like, oh my, like that's how you're gonna end this whole thing.
No, totally. I'd forgotten about that part. And also you had like, what was it, Elvis singing "America the Beautiful" or something? I mean, it's just totally
but like that, and then the Gibson Swordsman on drums, just like they had lingered on him just soloing on the drums in that one shot. Like, it was just like so indulgent with every little everything.
The John Voight scene with the bow and arrow.
Oh my god,
it was just crazy.
And he's the hero.
Yes. And then like from Aubrey Plaza and Shia LaBeouf, there was no hustle to either get out of range or to wrestle the bow and arrow away from this old man, which they easily could have overpowered him. It just crazy. Fascinating. Did you see The Substance?
No,
That's next on your list.
Okay. We're rolling. We're just talking. We're just getting.
Do I need to move this closer?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we just kind of get in, get talking.
Yeah. Sure.
But, yeah. I mean, like.
No, The Substance is crazy. The Substance is totally crazy. And that's what's so great. It's like right now with Megalopolis in theaters and The Substance in theaters. And even if you go back to like Strange Darling a month ago,
I need to see that as well.
It's like these incredible, big swing, full-on experiences you're lucky to get one of those a year. You've got 3 of them. I don't know if you can still catch Strange Darling in theaters. But you at least have the double feature of Megalopolis and The Substance in most cineplexes. Anybody can go see those 2 movies back to back and be like, whoosh. And I think that like the film Twitter of it all, and like people talking about cinema, and I feel like maybe that's kind of post-pandemic, or maybe it's just I'm dialed into it more now than I have been before. But like the excitement about movies with a capital M, you know, and like cinema with a capital C. You can get that right now in these very you know, wild, incredible experiences that are best served in theaters with an audience. And that's fantastic. The fact that anybody can go to a double feature of those 2 totally insane movies is incredible. And I feel like people are seeing it. Again, we're all in our weird bubbles, and you only get what kind of comes to you online, which is a strange way to live life. But I feel like people are seeing those movies and are being excited by the prospect of like movies and the possibilities of movies, and I think that that's fantastic. It's all we ever want, you know, like movie guys.
'Cause it's a chase, you know. It's
always a chase. It's always the chase. And when these couple of things hit, right? Whenever the movies that excite that chase within you, when they hit, you know it immediately. The reason why it's so special is because it doesn't happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does, and when it happens a couple times in a short period of time, you're just like, oh my God, that's incredible. So it's really exciting right now to have like a couple of things that are so wild. And you can't even like recommend Megalopolis to somebody in a normal context, because it totally exists outside the is it good or is it bad question. It's neither. You have to live it. You have to see it. You have to go through it, and you have to come out the other end, and like that's the excitement. It's like talking about it. You don't even want to like give it a grade. You just want to talk about it with somebody else who kind of went through this thing and is trying to figure out what all was going on in it. But seeing so many things that don't hit those marks, like that movie is special because like it is doing something, and it does something to you on a molecular level.
Yeah, I just want a feeling. I mean, like
Yes.
a lot of movies don't give me feelings. They're just very surface level. Like,
Right.
or they're exploitive of your emotion. Like,
Right.
oh, it's a sad scene. I want to make you cry. Or
Exactly.
like, and when it's all vibes and
Right.
less plot. I just want vibes with movies.
Absolutely. And so many times you can tell early on that the vibes aren't there, or that they're not going to be there, and it's really easy to check out. And once you check out, you can always come back, but you know pretty soon if something's going to hit those things or it's not. And if it's not, and you kind of see where it's headed, it becomes a slog. But when it's not, and you're just kind of like when you're off balance a little, you're like, what's going on here? Something like Crank. Like Crank was so crazy, and you could tell that it was crazy, and it's going for something crazy, and it keeps delivering that crazy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And when that happens, it's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. Like Longlegs, I felt like that movie.
Vibes.
It just like there's like, oh, creepy dolls. I didn't know that's where that's going.
Right.
And like it just keeps building, or Nicolas Cage's role, or
And that's another one out of nowhere this year. It's delivering you something, delivering you like a jolt, delivering you an experience. When Nicolas Cage is first on screen, and the music is ramping up, and it does that hard cut to the red screen, you're just like, whoa, give me that. That movie is an incredible experience. Again, and it was something that like you had to see with a theater,
mm-hmm.
in an audience, and you kind of just want to. When I left The Substance, I was walking different. out of like I was doing this very slow shuffle, and as soon as the end credits on the shuffle hit, or on the substance,
yeah.
I went to my phone and I texted a friend of mine that like we might talk 2 or 3 times a decade, but it's like if I'm hitting him, he knows that like I've found the thing that we're talking about that we're looking for always. I texted him. I think the last time I was coming out of a movie and I texted him like this was Enter the Void.
Oh yeah. Oh.
When it ended, I was like, dude, and I hadn't talked to him at that point in 15 years. And I'm like, Enter the Void. And then I hit the same thing. Like it was end credits. It was like I got it. I gotta text him. He needs to hear from me about this. And that's just you don't get that often. I feel like the substance is so crazy that like I can't believe that normal people can go to the theater and see it. I feel like you should have like somebody should be writing you a permission slip or something, or you should have to know somebody who knows somebody to hear about this movie and to get into the theater. Like the fact that normal people can go see a movie that crazy, it feels like you're getting away with something.
I gotta cancel my plans today and go see that
movie. It is so crazy and it is so awesome, and you have to see it on the big screen. Because watching it at home, it's just not going to be the same. And watching it on a streaming service when, whatever happens, it's just not the same. It's like, because you can also like pause it at home and you can take yourself out of it. There's something about like, I can't get out of this. Like this thing is being fed to me right now. That's also what's great about the theater, because you can easily, you can hit pause. You can call timeout at any time at home. And I do it all the time. Check my phone. When you're in the theater, your phone is locked away, man. It might as well be in a yonder pouch because you're not reaching for it.
Yeah.
Unless you're maybe checking the time for whatever reason. But like, that's the thing about movies is when you go into the theater and you're totally giving yourself over to the experience. I'm here. I'm riding this out. I'm not checking my Twitter feed. I'm not looking at my email. What are you doing? Go somewhere else. That's not what the movies are for.
Yeah.
Give yourself over to the experience, and in the movies that give that back to you, dude, it's so awesome.
Where's that passion come from? Like for you, like you're so right. It's like, noon, and you're hyping about these. Like, where'd that come from for you? Like as a kid, or
I just when I was growing up, I just always really loved the movies. I think like. We went to the video store in Rochester, Michigan. And we would go every week, obviously, and we would scoop up the new releases. And I had to see them, had to see the new releases. And I remember like 3rd or 4th grade, like on Mondays, you come in and you tell the class what you did over the week. And I would always hit them with reviews of what I had just seen.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, Revenge of the Nerds 2, like this is what happens, you got to see it. And I just remember like always like really loving the experience of watching things, and then really loving the experience of like talking about them afterwards. My dad is like he always liked weird movies. Like we would always make fun of the things that he would pick, and he would kind of go watch on his own. But he would choose things like Eating Raoul or like Pasquale's Island, and we would be like, because I didn't know that movies outside of whatever the main movies that they fed you were available to you. I just thought it was like, Top Gun and, whatever the new Disney thing is. But like, he kind of had this bridge to another world of movies. I remember when my folks watched Blue Velvet when they rented it from the video store. And I remember that the way that they were talking about it, I was way too young to see it at that time, and I didn't see it for another couple of years. But the way they talked about it, and the way that they were talking about the images on screen and what they meant and what they were symbolizing, it made an impression on me. Like, oh, the ear in the grass means something about the decaying soul of America. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't see Blue Velvet for a while. I remember watching RoboCop when we rented it with my folks. Hey, we're watching RoboCop tonight. I had seen the ads. I obviously didn't see it in the theater. I was like 9 years old or whatever. But when Ed 209 blew that dude away, I was terrified. Like, it totally made an impression on me. I was scared of RoboCop for a lot of years, but it was also like I learned that the movies could have that kind of effect on you, like could make you see something or make you feel something that made you feel uncomfortable, made you feel feelings, and so I don't know. From then on, I just always loved movies, and I was like the perfect age for when the independent cinema boom of the 90s hit. Like, I was 16 when Pulp Fiction came out.
Yeah.
And I was like 16, and I was starting to get obsessed with movies. I had, when I saw True Romance, I remember we rented it from the video store. I came home from wherever I was that night, and my parents were in bed, but I remember my mom saying, "You can't watch that. Like, we watched it, it's too much, you can't watch that." And I was like, wait till they go to bed, and then absolutely watched it.
Yeah.
And it was totally, that movie just blew me away. Everything about it, especially by the time they get to the elevator scene. Clarence! When Clarence is yelling at Bronson Pinchot's character, he's like, "I'm going to shoot him." I was just like, this is everything. And when that movie ended, I saw that it was directed by Tony Scott, and I knew that Tony Scott had done Top Gun. But I would never think that the guy who did Top Gun was doing this, and that's when I felt like that was the first time I paid attention to a director and like what it meant to be a director. And that was written by Quentin Tarantino, and that was when like Tarantino his name was starting to bubble around.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Reservoir Dogs, but I think that I saw Reservoir Dogs, and then saw Pulp Fiction opening night at the theater, and that after that it's it. You're 16 years old. You're becoming really interested in movies, and you see Pulp Fiction, and that just blew the doors open.
Yeah.
And again, I was the perfect age for that thing to hit then. And from then on, the whole 90s was just a smorgasbord of all these like independent projects taking over what had been the norm of the 80s and the Top Guns. And I love Top Gun. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't mean to dismiss it in any way. But this new energy was coming into the movies right at the same time that I was like coming of age. So it was perfect. And so that thing that like a young movie obsessed kid was getting is kind of the chase that I've always been chasing since. I didn't care about like comic books as a kid, and so I don't care about comic book movies in anywhere near the same way that I care about those like independent cinema voice, like Clerks and all that stuff was coming out in that 94, 95 Sundance, Miramax boom.
Yeah.
And that to me was just the best. Anything with the Miramax banner in front of it was like, gotta see it. And the Entertainment Weekly fall preview when it would come up, like,
Yeah.
That stuff was just the best to me. So it all hit me right at the right time.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it was such a great time to be like a young movie obsessed kid at that time when like VHS was crazy and Entertainment Weekly was hitting your mailbox. I had the subscription to Entertainment Weekly, and that was like every week that's hitting your mailbox. It's just the greatest thing. Like, go back to read Owen Gleiberman and Lisa Schwartzbaum's reviews. Yeah, and then it started to be like how do we talk about movies? And it's like, well, Owen Gleiberman and Lisa Schwartzbaum are talking about it, and like reading their reviews, and like reading Peter Travers reviews in Rolling Stone, and then kind of being like, Peter Travers is old, man. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I always think of his quote in the back of the Batman, the Tim Burton Batman VHS, where it's like, "It's a blast."
Yeah.
Like those kind of pull quotes.
Absolutely, the pull quotes bring you in. And then you kind of like you look at the pull quote, and then you go back to the original source. You read the full review. But I remember at one point, like, I think I wrote Peter Travers a letter, but I never sent it. But I was like, "You're old and you don't get it," or whatever. And now I read Peter Travers reviews, and I think that he absolutely does get it. I think that he's incredible at kind of like distilling something and creating like a real energy in his writing that makes you want to go see the thing that he's talking about. I'm glad that I never sent that letter.
I loved
then.
his scum bucket. He had the gun like on YouTube where it's like the scum bucket or the keep it or something. He'd throw like bad reviews into like a bucket in his office.
Oh, so he did get lots of letters from people like me.
No, it was like if it was a bad movie, he'd like throw it in this bucket.
Oh, okay.
And it was like during like I don't know, like 2007 or something on YouTube. Like he did some little moment where he'd like just throw a bad. He's like, oh, this is a bad movie. It goes in the bucket. And I don't know, like reviewers that like they tell you what, like they kind of give their point of view, but it's not distilled down to like a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a grade. Or I know, like that's people. Reviewers exist because people are trying to manage their time, and it's like they're there to tell you like what's good or what's bad, and like there's so much out there if it's movies or music or books, and so people need somebody to kind of give them an idea of what to look for. But I like when it's like this is kind of what I'm feeling, but it gets distilled down to like it's hot, it's not, like that kind of stuff. But I understand like it has to be like the time is short and you have to kind of get to a point. And
I think that's like the reader usefulness aspect of a review is like the simple grade at the end. Is it a B+? Is it a thumbs up? Is it a 4.5 stars out of 5? But like the juice is the actual words and the kind of discussion, or at least what's spilling out of their head, and that's kind of how you talk about or frame the conversation around a movie. And maybe just the grade or whatever it is like an entry point, or like you said, if somebody's on the go, oh, they gave it a B+, that's worth my time. And I think that look, people who review movies do kind of see everything, and I think that there is a very useful consumer aspect to at least try to steer people towards things. But I don't know if that's really the case. I remember, because sometimes the worst review can make you really want to see a movie. Like, oh man, that sounds like that's really doing something to that person.
I love negative passion.
Yeah,
when somebody gets triggered in a way that they're like, oh, that movie, I hate that movie. When they walk out of a movie at the Hall Theater, this guy walked out of they walked out of It Follows, and he was dragging his girlfriend. She was like midair as he was dragging her, like he was like leaving as she was just behind him. And I was like, what? When someone was walking out angry out of a movie and they're not talking, they're kind of like giving me the side eye of like, what did you do? You
like you're responsible for it.
And that's why I try to engage with them to see like what upset you, because I want to know like the understanding of them as a person with this movie. And he's like, there was no monsters in It Follows. There wasn't a Freddy Krueger. There wasn't a Jason. Right. And I'm like, aren't humans scary enough? Like this is about you. It's about me, like people.
Right.
And that to them that wasn't scary. And
it's
maybe it was. Maybe it was too close. Maybe that's why they're walking out there.
Well, that's the thing is like there's people who like really love movies, and there's people who like want entertainment, or they just want to watch something, and we're all too close to it because we love them so much. It's like if you love baseball and you become a baseball writer for the Tigers or something, and then you're grinding it out for 162 games through the ups and downs, you get so lost inside the thing that you forget what it was you disliked in the first place. So I don't know, I think like we're all chasing something different than just the average person who just wants to go watch a movie on a Friday night and wants to feel good and leave and then go home and go about their night. They don't want to like necessarily be challenged by something. They just want to like have a nice time at the movies, and that is absolutely what the majority of like the movie business probably is. And then there's like this corner for people who are weirdo obsessed with it, and we're chasing the weird thing, and most people aren't chasing the It Follows of the world. Who's the director on that? My guy.
David. Michael.
He's got 3 names. No, but he'd probably tell you that as well. What's that guy's name? David Robert Mitchell?
Yeah.
Is that it? Does that sound? That sounds right. David Robert Mitchell.
Let's look it up.
David Robert Mitchell.
David Robert. Yeah, you got it. You got the brownie points.
Yes. But like Under the Silver Lake, like you can't recommend that to a normal person.
Oh, I love that movie. I hated the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
I hated this is garbage.
Yes.
Then I watched it again.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is the best movie ever made.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, you're gonna monologue me at the end. You're gonna make everything like I hate like when actors just stand there like dolls and they're just talking. There's no business. They're not moving around. They're not moving their hands. The camera isn't moving around them. Like either it could be an active frame and people are just standing there, but you get the Phantom Menace syndrome where people just stand there and lecture. And like, is this a radio play or is this a movie? Like, move the camera, move your actors, one or both. And that's like Megalopolis. They did that at the beginning of that. When they're in that like
above that model when they're on that walkway.
Yeah, and then like veteran actors are just showing up. Like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, there's
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, and they're doing this like weird Shakespearean faux accent, and I'm just like trying to get into that.
And then Adam Driver does the entire "To Be or Not to Be." You're like, when are they going to cut him off from this? And he goes like 3/4 of the way through the "To Be or Not to Be" speech.
Yeah, and like for me, the movies don't need to have this, but I could get into a movie as if there's like a family moment. If that's in the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes, where there's just a scene, it could be a short moment if it's like 10 seconds, or just a scene where two actors are doing something, if it's a joke or an action, where like we kind of sink into like there's a moment where we kind of as an audience sink in, and movies don't need to have that. We can be at arm's length away, like that movie, but it's like some little joke or some little thing. Like I feel like in Long Legs, where they go to that house, and that cop, the main character's there, and that cop's there, and he comes to the door, and like he gets shot right away. That very
in that abandoned neighborhood.
Yeah, that very like matter of fact gunshot, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
And like that's we're sunk in now. Like we cannot predict anything.
Yeah.
And but it can be something funny. It could be like that, like an action. But if a movie doesn't have that, then you're just kind of like, okay, what are we like? I'm kind of waiting to get into it. But
right.
A movie,
give me something.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be like that. Movies don't need to be like that. But
no, but it's nice when they are. In Long Legs, they hit you with the crazy title card, and then that scene when they're just cruising through that neighborhood. It's I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
And then you just know that like for the rest of the time you're totally off balance. Like that gunshot was so out of nowhere on that guy, and you're like, okay, well these two are partners and we're gonna ride with them and they're gonna be partners through the course of this movie, and then he's just gone and you're like, okay, I don't even know where this thing's going next. But even that neighborhood that they were driving through was so empty and so creepy because it was so empty, and that whole movie had that empty sparse kind of feeling of despair throughout the thing. And I think that Oz Perkins is like a master of just making you feel like things are not okay. I remember when I saw The Black Coat's Daughter, and I was like, it's evil, man. That movie is evil. And the fact that he was able to like channel that evil throughout, you're like, oh man, I'll follow this guy anywhere. And then to see him come around with Long Legs, it's just like this, I don't know if it's like sometimes you feel like personally vindicated. You're like, man, I knew the Black Coat's Daughter was crazy. And then it comes back around. You're like, I told you back then that the Black Coat's Daughter was crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. You feel like a personal victory or something, like these guys. And that's the other great thing. You can follow like dudes, like you're trading baseball cards or something. Like you get to follow your favorite player through their career.
But I think when we see that progression in the filmmaker as they evolve and get bigger budget or get bigger actors, and we see the kind of like the progression and style, like, oh, they learned this, and then they kind of the leaping pad of their career. And
absolutely. That
payoff, and
it's the same thing with like David Robert Mitchell, like to go from Myth of the American Sleepover, which is fantastic, to It Follows, and then to Silver Lake, and you're like, what's going on with Silver Lake? This doesn't feel like the same guy necessarily. And Silver Lake had me like so off kilter the whole time. And then at the end, he hit you with Strange Currencies by R.E.M. over the end credits, and it kind of made me go back through my my weird feelings through the entire movie where I was like, this isn't working, this isn't working. And when that Strange Currencies hit, I'm like, maybe that all worked really well. Like the power of a music cue to make you reevaluate the things that you just saw or the things that you just felt. And then I knew I was in good hands. I was like, oh man, this movie was actually, it made you feel something. It made you question what you were watching. And then you're like, okay, I'm in good hands. Like David Robert Mitchell's my guy. Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. And like, you know, you don't necessarily get that from like Bad Boys Ride or Die or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, I do like that. Their style in that movie is crazy. Like that was like, this does not.
I liked 3. I didn't like 4. Like 4. And I'm a Martin Lawrence guy, but I didn't. Whatever Martin was doing, it just Ride or Die didn't jive with me at all. And I 2 was terrible. So let's say that 2 was the low water mark for the series. I would go like maybe 3, 1, 4, 2 if I'm ranking the Bad Boys.
I like the surrealness of the last one, just like the dreaminess,
yeah.
Some of that crazy stuff. I'm like, this doesn't need to be here. I like that. The style is kind of being pushed a little bit.
That's true.
But
the chemistry was weird. And it was much more a Martin movie than it was a Will movie. It was much more a Martin showcase. Yeah. Will kind of felt like he was in the background.
Yeah, I guess.
But then they weirdly built that son character up, who now the son is it Martin Lawrence's son or his stepson or whatever, and he has that action scene in the kitchen where he like takes out all those dudes.
Yeah.
And then he shows up at the barbecue at the end and like he's the guy now. Whatever they've done with that character, it's like how did they build like a third bad boy into this thing? It's the payoff of Ride or Die.
Yeah, I think I'm okay letting that just sit at 4 movies. We don't need to do any more.
I think because there has to be a goodbye. There has to be like a grand goodbye. And dude, as long as one or both of those dudes are alive, they're gonna keep making those movies. I think that's like the lesson of the last couple years with the Lego sequels. So it's like, as long as someone's alive, they're gonna keep doing it. There's no reason not to do it if they're still alive, because like, didn't Beetlejuice make $300 million?
Yes.
The first Beetlejuice is great as long as something back then was good. You can bring it. You can try to repackage that feeling. I rewatched the first Beetlejuice before Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. The first Beetlejuice is incredible. It's like this insane, doesn't make sense work of art. And Beetlejuice doesn't work at all. I didn't think that it worked at all. But there will be a Beetlejuice because the first Beetlejuice is so beloved, and for because it's a unicorn. The way whatever is happening in that movie, that's the feeling that we're talking about. Like, they captured it then, and the movie makes no linear sense. It's about Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters. It's not about Beetlejuice. He's barely in it.
But I like that's what that first Beetlejuice movie, like, again, it's like it's all vibes, it's all style, but yet but it's being like, I think it's one of the rarities where an audience gets onto it where it's because it doesn't make any sense.
No.
And I like that the new one also doesn't make any sense, and there's like zero payoff. Like it's like the lightliest wrapped up plot, like, hey, you know, the worm got him, the boyfriend went to hell, like we're just gonna like characters aren't gonna collide together and pay, like I feel like on generic like big strange movies, like I want things that are earned.
Yeah.
And the writers of that were like the whatever the filmmakers are like, nothing is earned here. Like, doesn't matter. We're gonna intentionally just point out plot holes. Like, where they're like, where did the Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis go? They're like, isn't that a coincidence that they're not here? Like, they're gonna wink at us, and it's like at the end, it's like, oh, I want Jenna Ortega's dad to be with like have this family moment with them, and like it just felt like they had characters just to guide other characters to plot. Like, oh, this like the boyfriend's there just to get her inside because they can't have the parents know that she's gonna go to the underworld. So like,
right.
And then like he's not gonna come back at all.
And that's why it was so that to me it felt so disjointed. And then like the Sigur Rós.
Oh yeah. Oh
cue.
no.
I was like, what is this?
The-
Why is this happening?
But
right
I fell
now?
for it. I was like,
I didn't fall for it at all.
I was like,
I had
he's cute. The bedroom, like the lights, the Sigur Rós.
but that song in particular, and dude, it's like a 20-year-old song. Why is this happening right now?
And-
Like, did Tim Burton just discover Sigur Rós? Like, why is this happening?
and why is he playing it when he's from the '90s? He's,
Right, it doesn't make any sense. Like, none of it makes any sense. Like, if you were to play a current song, I don't know. It just
Because all of his posters were all like he died in the '90s, right?
Right,
so it should
right.
be like Soul Asylum or I don't know some band.
Absolutely, it should have been something from Soul Asylum's "Let Your Dim Light Shine." It should have been "String of Pearls." Instead, it's the Sigur Rós song that exists out of time, and it's like the Coldplayest of Sigur Rós songs.
You didn't see them when they played recently.
Sigur Rós?
Yeah,
I didn't go to that because like I feel like my Sigur Rós years are over.
Yo,
Like,
everybody-
I left them.
Yeah, like I don't know
behind.
who went to that.
People did though, and they played with the DSO, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I feel like we all had the Sigur Rós moment, and I remember going to those shows, and it was like, it was a totally unique vibe at those shows because not a person said a word, and this was before we were really talking throughout concerts the same way that we do now. But it was silence in there, and if you sneezed or coughed, you had to apologize. That's how quiet those shows were.
We'll talk about another quiet show a little later.
Okay, but like, and then I don't know, and then Sigur Rós, I don't know, like maybe after the Parentheses record, I feel like they just maybe then Jonesy or Yonesy did some of his own solo work,
Yeah.
and I felt like we had wrapped up the Sigur Rós thing.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of still hanging around sometimes. It's just not the same. Is he still playing the bow? I don't know.
And the show's kind of short. When I saw Jonesy the last 10 years ago, it was like 45 minutes or an hour. It was like.
Did you see it at the Fox?
No, this is in St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
It was like a whole performance. Like this tornado came through. Like the set was like.
Yeah. I saw that tour.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, we're done. There's no encore. Just like
Right.
This is the performance. I'm like, okay.
Maybe it was after that I was like, we're just done here.
Yeah.
And they don't come up in my playlists. And I feel like I had a good time with them then, but we don't need to continue that. And then so when out of nowhere that song dropped in Beetlejuice, it was just such a weird callback to a time that like I'm happy to not relive. Not that I have anything against it, but I'm like, why is this playing now in 2024? It was such an incongruous moment. I just didn't understand.
Even the last song, I felt. I maybe some older people thought that "Cake in the Rain" song fit, but I was just like, what?
What was that song?
It,
Who's it by?
It's a cover. There's two versions of that song.
Yeah.
I
didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I guess like my parents would know that's like
Okay.
It hits with like a boomer audience. But
And maybe that's
just
the
felt
same
odd
way
that-
that like in the first one, like those Belafonte songs were totally out of place and out of time for 1988. But they're super fun. Yeah, the cue at the end, it didn't make any sense to me. And Justin Theroux, whenever Justin Theroux shows up in things, I feel like something's a little off. In not a good way necessarily.
Because I always think of him from Mulholland Drive.
Me too. Yeah.
And like how intense. I've seen you.
He's great in Mulholland
I've
Drive.
seen you drive 100 miles per hour, and I'm seeing him not right here. Like push it a little bit more. Like
He's
be a
got the
little-
golf club in Mulholland Drive, right?
Yeah, smashing the window.
Yes.
And
Billy Ray Cyrus comes in and puts him in his place.
he's putting the paint in her jewelry.
Yes, the pink paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he like punch. Yeah. All that's like. But it's like, yeah, I've seen you over here, but like I like pushed this odd guy more, but yeah, nope, it was okay. I mean, I got the Beetlejuice tone. Even like Beetlejuice, he didn't transform or like into a snake or do anything like crazy like the first movie.
Right.
But I felt like, oh, now that we know the world, this is like a mystery cop movie now. Like it shifted genres a little bit. Like
Well, I think like the weird thing was like we got this glimpse of Beetlejuice's life in the first movie, and he seemed like such a wild guy that like he was collecting new 16-year-olds that he was trying to marry every week. This Beetlejuice was crazy. So now 30 years later, he's still pining after the Winona Ryder character. I feel like that would have been such a distant memory for him. But like that, the small glimpse that we saw of him was the only life that he ever had. I'd like to think that he's been living since, and he's done this with many daughters of dead couples. Or however, he wasn't. Winona wasn't the daughter. It was of the daughter of the couple. It was anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like he would have done this with dozens of girls. The fact that he was still pining after her made me feel like there's been no life has been lived in Beetlejuice since, and we're just returning because the only time that we ever see Beetlejuice is the only time he exists. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that bugged me. Like, he wouldn't still be pining after Winona Ryder, especially now that she's like 55 years old. He's trying to always pull scams on girls, and it wouldn't still be pining after her. I don't know. That's my problem. I want to feel like the character has continued to exist even in the times that we haven't spent with him.
Yeah.
And I felt none of that.
And like I want two things I didn't want from Beetlejuice is an origin story and a baby.
Yeah.
And I was like, you better not do that origin story, and I better not see a baby. And then when I got both, I'm like, I know those were both like recommend, like you have to have these in the movie because you have to because that Jim Carrey Grinch movie had him as a little kid. Like I was just like thinking of that movie where it's like, oh, like you have to show the Grinch as a kid in school, and
absolutely,
like,
and he was
like,
picked on.
Yeah, I'm like, we're gonna get these things, but I like that they did like the Mario Bava reference in there with like Black Sabbath and this Italian horror.
Yeah,
movie,
that was an interesting touch that just it also felt out of place, or like maybe that's what Burton can do is like give these flourishes of things that are still in his brain even through the Disney years. He's still letting you know there's a little bit of Tim Burton in there.
He's in
and
a
that
Mario,
was cool.
He's in a Mario Bava documentary that I was like, oh, he's like, okay, I get what we're doing here. But also like this Beetlejuice is like kind of like an Italian horror movie logic where like those like Beyond or Demons, like these like Italian horror, I feel like they just abandon one thing to do the next thing to do the next thing.
It had a checklist.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I'm bored. Let's move on to my hot girlfriend that's a corpse. We're gonna see her.
And the Bellucci thing, I didn't think that worked at all. And it was cool when she was putting herself back together.
For
that was
4
a cool
minutes.
sequence. But that was it. And then she spent so much of the movie wandering around the hallways of like the offices of the dead. And every once in a while we'd cut back to her looking in rooms. Is Beetlejuice in here? And then we'd go away to another story, and then she'd come back, and she had no place there. And yes, I guess like in terms of Beetlejuice's love life, we did get what he was once up to with the Bellucci character. But I still don't feel like he would still be pining after Winona Ryder after all these years.
And it felt like so fluff. Like we have a script that's like 45 minutes, and we're gonna have all these side characters that we'll just cut to kind of make it elongate this narrative, and then there's no payoff. They all come to this church, and there's no tension.
No.
They're like, oh, the worm's
what's
gonna
at
come
stake
in.
even? What are we caring about here?
But that's kind of I think they're also like making fun of all that. They're like, none of this matters. Like it's Beetlejuice. We're not gonna have it.
It's fair, and maybe the stakes in Beetlejuice don't need to be that high, but there was a real passion in Beetlejuice, and it was addressing interesting things in like a really empathetic way.
Yeah.
There was a beating heart in the center of that film, and there was not one in Beetlejuice. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Other than reminding you of this thing that you liked. Which is what so many of the Lego sequels do. Yeah. The Beverly Hills Cop Axel F was entirely just reminding you of the first film, with a couple jokes about 2 and 3 sprinkled in there. That one worked okay, though. I didn't mind Axel F. I was able to see that one with an audience, and it worked with an audience. I wish it would have played in theaters. I think it's probably a better experience in theaters. I saw Roadhouse, the new Roadhouse, in theaters.
Oh, really?
And I thought it worked in the theater.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like it at all, and they watched it at home. I feel like some of these movies, you're better off in a theater. Mm-hmm. And, Roadhouse, having Conor McGregor rip a hole through the middle of the movie, worked in an audience when you're kind of giving yourself over to it. When you're at home, you're kind of like, this is weird. It just, your kind of perceptors are different when you're watching it at home as well. Because you're not fully invested in the experience the same way that you are at the theater.
How do you go from one screening to the next without feeling like you get glazed over? Like, how many movies do you see in a week going to screenings?
Oh, maybe these days only like 4 or 5. 5 would be like a busy week. Although we're getting to like, end of the year season, and so there's going to be like 6 and 7 week movies in there. For the most part, it's like 3, and it's pretty manageable.
Did you see Joker 2 yet?
No, I see it on Wednesday.
Oh, they didn't do a exhibitor screening for that. At least
They
I
didn't?
get invited to one. I didn't get invited to that. I didn't get invited to Beetlejuice.
Well, I feel like Venice put a damper on Joker 2, and after, I feel like things are kind of things got really buttoned up on it since then. We're not seeing it till Wednesday. That's usually Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is and you get a little bit more time, but Wednesday's like the last possible moment they can show it to you, and so I wonder. I'm so excited for that movie, or I was, and I still am.
Can you feel the lack of
Maybe
energy for that movie?
a little bit. And I remember the first one had such a buzz out of Venice, and it won the Golden Lion or whatever. It's the Golden Lion of Venice.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And so it's like, oh man, this movie's gonna be this is gonna be something.
Yeah.
And then so when that first one hit, man, that was a jolt, man. That was a jolt of electricity. And I'm still excited for the second one. We'll see how it goes, but I feel a little bit dampened. There's been a dampening of the enthusiasm, not by my own making. I think elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But I put a block on the word Joker on my Twitter feed because I felt like I was seeing reviews and I didn't want to see them and I didn't want to be influenced in any way. And I love Lady Gaga. And I'm all for whatever Lady Gaga is doing most of the time.
Did you listen to the music for it yet?
I scanned through it quickly, but I felt like it's something that I can listen to, at least give a full listen afterwards.
Yeah.
I try to go into most things that I see with as little kind of advanced knowledge as possible. I stopped watching trailers for movies like 10 years ago. Like cold turkey, stopped watching trailers, and my experience of the movies has been has benefited greatly because I'm not like anticipating certain beats or looking for things to happen. For my purposes, it's the most pure way to watch something is to just go in as cold as possible. I think I remember the first movie I really did it for was the Neon Demon. Like I didn't even know who was. I think I knew that Elle Fanning was in it, but I didn't know anything else. And having watched no trailer and just kind of knowing a title and then it was by Nicholas Winding Refn, I was like, all right, let's go. And like that having that hit me without having seen anything made me want to like continue to do that as much as possible. So that's when I stopped watching trailers. Totally, I haven't watched a trailer in 10 years, and I love it.
So have you ever like written a review or written something, someone on the street or someone on Twitter like, it's like, oh, I totally disagree with your review on that concert or that movie, or people pretty much agree with your perspective on.
Nobody really gives me a hard time. I think if, for the most part, if they don't agree or they thought that whatever I wrote, they didn't agree with, I've never really gotten into like a fracas with anybody about it.
Some nerd isn't like
carrying a pitchfork outside my house. Not really. Sometimes like people will say like, I usually don't agree with you or something, and I'm like, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like we're just talking about movies. And that's really all we're doing. We're talking about movies, and it's fun, and it should be fun. But yeah, I don't think I've had any problems with people disagreeing with a take, nor do I think that I've had such radical takes as to anger, fans of a particular thing or anything like that.
Yeah. But people do watch your critical speaking segments. They've come to the theater and like mentioned your guys' reviews or like,
oh, that's great.
When you've mentioned the theater, like people talk like, oh, that made me come here or check out the come here and see a movie.
Oh, that's great. I love that. I do run into people that tell me that they watch me on TV, and that's fantastic. It's always people are always super, super nice when they come up, and it always feels really good to hear that they watch the show. That's always, and people are always super, super kind, and they say that they always watch. I don't know if they always watch, but they always tell me that they always watch, and that always feels really good. We've been doing that show for almost 9 years, and you know, it was maybe after like 3 years that people started pointing me out. Hey, you do the show with Lee. I'm like, oh, yeah. So yeah, that always feels really good. And to hear that people are coming to the theater saying that they watched the show or they heard about something, because I do my best, or we try to do our best to kind of like highlight the things that you would be showing, or some of the smaller stuff that you are able to highlight. And I think I've personally said, this is playing at the historical Howell Theater. And I think that that's the value, because I remember like watching Siskel and Ebert growing up. They would often tell me about movies that I didn't otherwise know about. And so we have a format where we can hit them with the 2 biggest movies of the week, and then maybe sneak something in at the end that's not as big or mainstream, but that we can hopefully help point somebody toward. And that's always, I feel like, the true value of having somewhat of a at least a platform to reach people. Say, hey man, point you towards this thing. Or hopefully, like I've said enough times that, like, I lean towards this way in my views on movies, that hopefully I could help, or at least maybe expose somebody to something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just that's always been something I've tried to do. Like, talk about the thing, but then hopefully sneak in something about the other thing that is actually the thing that makes me excited. Movie A is okay, but movie C is the one you really got to pay attention to.
When you got I said about Doom Generation, like we played those kind of movies.
Yeah. Dude, that was another one when I was growing up. When I saw the Doom Generation, I was like, what is going on here? And like, I don't think that like Iraqi ever really hit that high again. But that was one that was like a dare. It was like, I remember like in college, like trying to get people to watch that movie with me. Like, yo, you got to see the Doom Generation. Yeah, and that's like on that short list of things that, like, okay, now if you like this, or now if you watch this, here's a whole other thing, a whole other world of things you can get pointed towards. And it's like a club. If you're in that club, if you've seen that movie and you get that movie and you love that movie, now you can have this whole other conversation, right?
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I don't even know what that is, versus like, oh yeah, I love that movie. Like, oh, you do? And then like, yeah, Jonathan Sheck is like forever, like he shows up in like the squarest FX TV shows now, or like on like CBS procedurals, and you're like, Jonathan Sheck, I know what you're really up to. Like, you were in the Doom Generation. Like, don't give me this CSI Blue Bloods. Like, I know that you're crazy. Like, like it's like the Twin Peaks fraternity. Like, everybody that was in that series is forever minted, right? Like, and anything else that they're in ever, like, you were in Twin Peaks and you're forever cool. Like, you are forever cool because you're associated with this thing that I love the most in the world. And like, that's like once you're in like that secret society of like the Twin Peaks fandom.
Yeah.
The Twin Peaks fandom was like, or watching Twin Peaks was absolutely the number one gateway into like a different kind of way of looking at things, a different way of like loving art or something. That was even more than like seeing Pulp Fiction when I was 16 or whatever. It's like Twin Peaks was the avenue toward everything. And when like The Return came out, to forget, like, it's the greatest of all time. The end, like when the scream at the end, like Cheryl Lee, the great Cheryl Lee, a couple of years ago down at the Senate Theater in Detroit, Ray Wise came through to do a Q&A after a screening of Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
It was, dude, and like, shake Ray Wise's hand. This is like the greatest.
How was he?
He was great. I feel like he did at least a half hour, a 45-minute Q&A, answered everyone's questions, gets his place in the culture, knows that he's to these Twin Peaks fans that he's just, on another level. And, he did like a meet and greet line, shook his hand, said what's up. It was fantastic. It was a great experience. Super glad I went. Cheryl Lee was supposed to be there too, and she bounced at like the last minute. I think like we were pulling up, and maybe she pulled out like the day before or something like that. But it's supposed to be the two of them. Can you imagine? You imagine meeting Cheryl Lee? But Ray Wise, legend, super glad to have done it. You were going to say something about a quiet concert.
Oh yeah, Minsky.
Oh yeah, you were at Minsky?
Yeah.
That was a quiet concert. That was a totally quiet concert.
I went to day 2 of her.
Oh, I went to day 1.
But that's a quiet.
That was a very quiet concert. That was the first time since Sigur Rós that I had felt that.
You could hear a pin drop.
Absolutely, you could.
Not day 2 was not like that. It was more of like a performance art, like Dave Burns, Talking Heads thing where she had like this chair on the stage and she's on this. Her band was around her.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it was the same show.
Oh, it's the same show again?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think that's her show now.
Oh.
Like, that is her show. I think the set list doesn't change.
She just did 2 days in a row.
2 days in a row. It's
okay.
Everybody who wants, you can either come see it twice, or we can get everybody that wants to see it once. I think the deal with her shows is, like, I think people have been scared into silence because of the whole mother is mothering thing. Or maybe it was just so silent at her shows before that when somebody yelled "mother is mothering," then that became the thing to not do at her shows. And so now nobody wants to say anything at her shows because they're scared of getting called out by either those around her or by Mitski herself. Did you hear, like, in the beginning of my show, she started telling this story about this show she did in Detroit once, and she wasn't sure where it was, and somebody yelled out, like, "It was the magic stick," or something, and she's like, "I can't hear you." She's like, "I have in-ears in, and when we have in-ears in, we can't hear the audience." So it was like immediately dissuading audience members from yelling things at her to prompt a response from her, because also I think that she's had some, if not adversarial, at least, like, there's been bumping of heads between her and her fans because they say things or want to say things. So yes, a very silent crowd, I think out of respect for her, but also out of fear for not being pointed toward as the loud fan in the Mitski audience.
Oh yeah, she talked to us. She's like, she's like broke character and talked for a little bit. She had us all yell at the same time. Did you do that?
to get it out at once?
Yeah. She's like, wasn't that good? And then there was like the breaks between songs and people were like just yelling rude things, but she just let it sit.
Okay.
She ignored everything that someone yelled.
Oh, well, I remember at my show somebody did yell because she was like drinking water. Everyone was like, "Hydrate yourself, Mitski," or whatever. Like, but there were no disrespectful comments at my show, and really quickly anybody yelling anything was muted out, and we kind of moved on from it. But I think that's the risk she runs every night. Is just because it's so quiet. Maybe sometimes to like break the mood, somebody wants to yell, or they want to be heard, they want a response. I totally get that. You're in the same room with Mitski, but it was like, the silence in there was rare. You don't get that at a lot of shows.
But I liked it because it's like, people want to like having that stillness.
Yeah.
Having that pause.
And people weren't even standing. People were sitting.
Yes.
In silence.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're in a crowd that big and there is total silence, there's like an awkwardness that you feel as an audience member. So I feel like to break that up, maybe somebody yells something, but you just gotta sit with it, I guess.
And where I was at, it felt like she was looking over to me, like she was looking. It was like, is she looking at me?
That's the connection.
But when that was coming down like that,
that was cool.
Oh, beautiful.
That was really cool. I kind of got on board at "Bury Me at Makeout Creek," and I don't know. She did one song from that record. I don't not to be like the early guy, but I like that the early. Not that I expect her to do that stuff either. But I think I got one of those songs and it felt really good, and then the newer stuff is a little bit lost. Those are short songs too. I felt like everything was like under 3 minutes. Quickie songs. Are you going to Billie Eilish?
I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking. I missed because it sold out so quickly.
Yeah.
I was looking at resale tickets. I'm like, okay, $400, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. And then like now it was like it just kept on getting
Yeah.
crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
But if the tickets go, if there's more tickets released on Monday,
Just keep looking.
yeah,
Keep looking. Did you go to last time she played Little Caesars Arena?
no,
It's great. It's fantastic.
because that's why I'm like, oh, like it's just her on this.
No.
There isn't-
She's really good. She's
'Cause-
really, really good.
Because like the just hot, like this, I don't. This last album, like this album makes me want to go see her live.
Yeah.
And
Did you see the stage configuration?
Oh, that's how it's in the round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first show was last night, and it's like a huge stage in the middle, and she's got all this space to like run around. I think it's gonna be a really good show. The last time she played, I saw her at the arena, and she's just so good, and she's got such control, and she's got such a like a good rapport with the fans, and I feel like she was taking care of the fans. And was really able to kind of like speak to everybody in the room to kind of level set the whole thing, and then just the physicality of her performance and the kind of intimacy of her performance. She's really, really good.
Like
She's
that
really,
kind of
really
concert
impressive.
when like they can like take an arena like that, arena show
Yeah.
like that, and like bring it down.
Yeah.
Or like change the stage so like it like Dua Lipa when I started featuring Nostalgia, how like
Yeah.
it became like a disco nightclub, and they like lowered the scaffolding to make it like
Yeah.
to alter the space to make it seem bigger or smaller or more intimate.
Yeah.
And or like some shows like Charlie XCX where it's just like a big fur jacket and bopping around the stage can only go so far for me.
Oh, okay.
But like
Yeah.
it's a cool. It's they're getting some their hits, but like
Well, I think that one was like, I felt like the balance between her and Troy was off.
oh, Troy put it all out in the put it all out there, and
I would have if I'm booking that and I'm not, I would have done Troy and then I would have done Charlie. Because I feel like every time they switched, it was like a transfer of energy, and we were losing a little bit. I felt like it was a Charlie audience, and I felt like she and all of her songs are ragers. And I didn't think that Troy was as raging in his performance, and having to kind of always go back down.
Yeah.
It didn't. The flow was a little bit off.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that Charlie XCX is playing arenas. It's just it's
I
insane.
I think
insane.
she can't believe that.
Well, I don't think that she expected to. And now that she's doing it, and I don't know, it's something else.
Did you live your best brat summer?
I didn't live a brat summer. I was like, Brat is like the my least favorite Charlie XX album in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I'm still living my True Romance summer, because I've been a huge fan of hers for a long time, and I think she pivoted around pop 2, and it just hasn't been the same for me since. Up through Number One Angel, I was the most all in, and pop 2 just kind of changed a little bit, and since then I've felt myself kind of like engaged less, which is why it's so surprising that now she's bigger than ever, and that's why it's so insane to see her entirely play an arena, justifiably so, with these songs that kind of like I just don't connect to in the same way that I did the earlier stuff. But I'm all for her as a pop star. I think she's fantastic. So I didn't live a brat summer at all. I lived a 46-year-old man summer.
Whether did you Childish Gambino? You went to?
I didn't go to Gambino.
Oh man,
No.
that was so.
How was that?
Oh, phenomenal!
It was?
like that's the energy that I like. That kind of show. I was familiar with some of his music, but not all of it. More of like his acting and like Community and
Yeah.
And then like kind of going in like hearing all these songs kind of for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was just like having the two stages, having like the theatricalness of it, like him like closing out this character and treating it almost like a boxer. Like he'd go from the one stage to the next and like have a camera following him around and like getting it hyped up, or
What were the other opposite sides of the arena?
yeah, like the front, and then he had like a little stage on the other side. He played
And he
like
kept going back and forth.
he only had like 2 songs over there.
Okay.
And then one song, he was like in this robotic, like kind of Daft Punk looking spacesuit
Yeah.
that he wore, and then like the light show, the energy, the kind of the just kind of owning the space, moving it around, like
Yeah.
always kind of engaging with the audience, not like. For me, like Charlie always kind of seemed either up on that balcony or
Yeah.
like when the acts are kind of always around or like making you kind of move around, like following around the stage, or not just kind of being in the same spot. But yeah, like that like the light show, the setup. Willow was the opener. I mean, she was just in the like, she had this stage, she had this like temple set for this story that she told at the end, but she never moved. She was just always in the way back. She never got to the front. She never really moved forward.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, you're not even gonna come close to your fans. You're gonna be like towards the
Sometimes
back.
I feel like a lot of times, like on stage, there is a line that you cannot go past as an opener. Like, this stage is for the main act.
Yeah, don't.
And do not, like, sometimes there'll be like a catwalk, and you'll be like, why isn't the opener on that catwalk? It's like, because the catwalk is for the headliner, and you are not allowed, contractually, you are not allowed to steal what will be the show from the headliner. So sometimes I feel for openers when there's clearly, when I saw Chappell Roan open for Olivia Rodrigo, there's a line on stage this year. It was like in March at Little Caesars. She couldn't go past the line that was on the stage, and I'm like, she was coming out there and she was killing it, but there was like, she couldn't go past the line because she's an opener.
Yeah, and even like Childish Gambino, they had like fake construction sounds. They had a guy like.
So it was a whole art piece.
There's a whole art piece. So they had like mechanical industrial, like as they're breaking the set down. I think they just had people like even just pretending to do something. Like they had a guy like sawing something with like a buzzsaw and like sparking, and like there's no reason for that to be happening. Like they should be physically cutting anything here. Like they just have things
There's
happening.
no construction happening here.
Yeah. But that was a phenomenal show.
Oh, that's cool. It was my lack of engagement with his records that I was like, I just won't know enough of this stuff
Yes.
to enjoy it.
Yeah, who I went with, they were big fans, and like it was like going with a fan that was like, they were pointing out, oh, like this song that like having him be kind of on YouTube, or like hearing when that music was supposed to be connecting with me, but I was not present during that time.
Yeah. It's like you just don't know that, you don't know the beats, you don't know you're not anticipating the things that you're.
So yeah, when I just knew like the basic music, like the songs like from like Get Out that he had, like those like hits that came out from that.
Or like This Is America.
Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the concert, he did like a whole like movie credit, like thank you, and like showed all the crew, like it was like an end of a theatrical movie.
Yeah. Sabrina had tour credits.
How was that show? Yeah.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. But like midway through, like, because her whole thing was like, it was like a variety show.
Yeah.
And the variety show was kind of happening on stage and on the screens at the same time. And one of the gags in the show was like the opening credits of like a late night TV show, and it went through in the band's names were all on the screen, so she didn't have to do the thing where she's like, and my drummer Tony, and you have to cheer.
Yeah.
And then later in the show there were full credits to kind of get all that stuff out of the way. Everybody gets credit, and then tour credits. Everyone. But it was like integrated into the show.
Yeah, I was watching her Detroit show on TikTok, and like I wasn't sure if her main audience, the youth audience, like understood like this variety show, this like Sonny Bono Cher like retro set thing that's going on. I'm like, is this they understand? Like, is this Sabrina's call that she wants us like this? I was just trying to get like.
Right, no.
Where's this coming from?
It was very like the aesthetic was very 60s, 70s, and her audience was like current middle schoolers. So I don't know if they understood what exactly the concept of the show was.
But it was a short show, right? I mean, it was only her.
She did like 90 minutes.
Okay.
Which is just fine. I think it was exactly as long as it should have been. It was a really fun show. She's so minted as like pop superstar right now that I think just being in the crowd with her or being able to buy the T-shirt, fans were just unbelievably blessed feeling to be there. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I can't believe that Sabrina Carpenter is right there on stage.
And her merch was like a merch cafe thing that I saw. Like you could get a.
Well, also like since COVID, like pop performers, especially the merch lines are they're the longest lines you've ever seen. Yeah. The Sabrina show was super fun. She's pop royalty right now.
And "Kiss Me" was the song that she played.
Yeah, she did the Sixpence None the Richer. "Kiss Me."
Yeah, that's I was on TikTok watching that. You could.
So you were watching it live?
No.
Oh, you were watching the clips afterwards.
Yeah.
It's a very the way that like pop shows live online now is crazy. Like you can experience a full like every night's an event. Like the Eras tour made every night on the tour an event for people around the world, and like that is something that didn't used to happen at all. You'd go on tour and no one would hear from you because you're just in that city on that night. And now like the whole world is tuning into clips every night, and like the nonsense intros or the nonsense outros, those became a thing every night on tour for Sabrina. And like the same thing with Taylor Swift, like the secret songs every single night became a thing, and fans worldwide are discussing and wanting to know what the songs each night are. I don't think that we've lived in a world where every night on tour matters the way that it does now for like, a small handful of pop performers. It's like, it's totally smart, but it's like changed the game on live music and how you can experience it as a fan sitting at home. It's crazy.
Watching it on someone's phone on TikTok.
Right. You like, and then when you go, you already know everything you're going to see. Like you already know all the beats. There's no surprise. You're waiting just for the thing that you've already seen online 16 or 17 times.
How was Taylor at the Eras tour? You had like front row seats to that, right?
Off of the stage where she does the secret songs or the acoustic songs every night, I was a few rows off of that, so I was at the end of the long runway. Dude, the Eras tour was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable. Like the experience of being there. I went both nights. Both nights it was here. Like the experience of being there in that audience with those fans who were so passionate, just the energy in that room was like indescribable. And to see like the energy around Ford Field, to see like fans on the streets of Detroit heading into the show, like big groups of like 20-year-old girls all wearing like cowboy hats and like bedazzled boots, walking around on Woodward Avenue heading up to the show. Just that whole thing that took over for 2 days was just it was an unbelievable energy, and that carried into the building, and it stayed the whole time, and it kind of, you left with it as well. Like those shows I think were like on a Friday and a Saturday, and I think it was it took me until Tuesday to come down off like the buzz and just being like, oh my God, you're like living in this world. And I'm not even like a Taylor Swift fan. I like her fine, but I wouldn't go out of my way to go to the Eras tour like as a fan, or I'm not going to pay like $1,200 or something like that.
Yeah.
But to be there in the building with that, even somebody who's not like living that life, it totally was goosebumps the whole time. It was incredible. It's incredible. It was totally incredible.
What other pop stars could learn from Taylor? What's she doing that what like Sabrina's not maybe doing or not doing? Like, I mean, Sabrina's like Taylor adjacent. Some of these people are...
Sure. Well, and Sabrina opened a bunch of dates on the Eras tour. I think she's under the tutelage of Taylor. I think what Taylor Swift has done is like build a world for her fans through her music, and through the confessional style of her lyrics. She brings them along for the ride in her life, and then that life gets translated to songs, and then those songs, while specific, are also universal, so they can apply to the feelings that you have about whatever, or the relationship that you're gone through, or that you went through, or that you're inside. And so it becomes applicable, but also like her personal storyline is the same as the narrative as her songs. And so at this point, after 16 or 17 years, it's just kind of created this world that fans can then live inside. I think that's hard to do. Like, I don't think if you look at like Charlie XCX's career, there's not that same through line. She kind of seems to be like, trying different styles or doing this, and she's not letting you inside her life the same way that Taylor always has. So,
was that singer-songwriter, like
the singer-songwriter
Treat Your
confessional
Heart,
thing?
like
Absolutely. And what she's built now is just like it's I don't think
and
we've
like
seen
having a
anything like it.
stance, like having that like no bullshit, like if you're gonna use my AI generated, like kind of going after, like if they're gonna abuse my fans or
no, yeah,
like,
and like the protectiveness that she has over her fans, and like the loyalty that she's built. I don't know. It's just like it's world bearing stuff, and yeah, and she's like the head of it all. It's I don't know where she goes after the Eras tour, but like everybody wants to follow along for the next step, and like Reputation, Taylor's version is somewhere. It's coming soon. Yeah, no, it's crazy. So even
when's she gonna make a movie though? Like she's directing her music. She's directing her music videos. I think
she
movie.
did. She was in the what's his name?
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, which was
David O. Russell.
David O. Russell, yeah.
She gets hit by a car.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
I didn't see it, but that's what I heard.
Amsterdam. I don't know.
Her movie.
I felt something for it. I felt something for it. I don't know if anybody else. I felt it's a mess, but there was a little bit of blood. There was a little bit of blood in its veins. I felt it a little bit. Just a little bit.
I didn't. I need to.
I even
David O. Russell. I'm kind of dropped off of his.
Yeah. I understand why. Like, he's made some really good movies. He's made some so movies. I'll probably always see his movies, just to see what he's up to. Amsterdam wasn't his best effort, but he's trying.
Yeah,
he's trying. Great cast.
Yeah.
But when I don't know, there'll definitely be some sort of Taylor Swift movie. I don't know if she directs it. I don't know if it's like the story of her life.
No, like a movie, like just her making a movie in general. Like she writes a movie or does a
Britney and Crossroads or something.
No, she wouldn't. I don't think she'd even be in a movie. She's just gonna direct a movie.
Oh yeah.
Because I think Fox Searchlight said Disney was like, if you want to make a movie with us, like open door, whatever you want to come and make a movie with us, like we'll produce a movie.
Oh, they said that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
yeah, maybe she's just got to figure it out.
Because she's directed that one, was it the Lost Red Scarf short film? That was
the short film. I think she won a Grammy for that.
It was like Sean Film and
yeah.
I mean, she's worked with other music video directors and she directed that her.
She directed the video that she did with Posty, I think.
Yeah. So
Fortnite.
she's clearly interested in filmmaking and telling stories, and
what she really wants to do is direct.
Yeah.
Which is the classic.
And so I'm curious, the jump with that with fans, if she's not even in it, just she built this world, and so.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, yeah, she built the world, and that's incredible. And it's there. Did you see the Eras tour on screen?
Oh yeah. We showed that because when that came out, AMC, they were the distributors for it.
Yeah.
And originally, I think the distributor that worked with them was I think the deal was like, we're gonna make it seem like you're gonna put these like you're the only theater that's gonna be showing it.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
And then everybody bought tickets for that, and then like the next day they're like, oh, any theater can show it.
Right.
But then people already bought tickets for that, and then like
How did you do with it?
It did fine. I mean, it did good.
Did you have the dance parties in the front of the theater?
I don't think anybody. I don't think
Nobody got up and danced?
No. I mean, people had the bracelets, and it was popular. But I think like that first announcement of like AMC theaters only kind of like.
Then the AMC gets the real surge in tickets because everybody has been trained whenever anything Taylor Swift goes on sale, get it now, get it as quickly as you can.
So like I think, and then like when like sometimes when other theaters are sold out, we kind of get like, oh, we'll go here because like it's not going to be packed, it's not going to be as full.
Right.
But it did fine. It did fine.
At the screening that I went to, which was like the first showing, and so people were stoked. People ran to the front of the theater, maybe like during like the second, maybe during the Speak Now era or whatever, and then they just kind of kept congregating in the front of the theater. It became a dance party. It was incredible. Again, it was incredible.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like that. I think I saw this like on a Monday after they come out. Do you have 3 favorite Taylor songs? Do you have any ones that?
I think Blank Space is my favorite Taylor Swift song. I mean, it's super basic. I'm not deep in the catalog at all, but I think Blank Space is one of the best songs of the last 25 years. Okay. It just the instrumental is perfect. The call and response is perfect. Dude, Blank Space. It's Blank Space for me.
Okay.
All the way. I mean, I know it's not like a deep cut. But I'm not a deep cut Taylor Swift guy.
Yeah.
I'm a radio hit Taylor Swift guy. I think Blank Space is an incredible radio hit.
And we're pumping all this audio, all this ambient sound, like, all the trucks and buses and horns and trains, like it's all being added.
Oh
in post.
yeah. We just need a dog. I think we had a dog barking earlier.
Yeah,
I don't know if I made it on the mics.
I pushed the dog button sound effect. You were at then also Green Day. The Green Day, the drone.
Were you there?
Oh yeah, I was there.
It was crazy. Where were you at?
Far away. I was in the stands. I mean, I was
100 level, 200 level, 300 level.
I was probably I was like 10 seats back from the field.
Okay, so you're in the lower level.
Yeah.
Were you worried about what was going on?
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, because like the people I was with, I was like, hey, if you want to go now, I'm good leaving.
Right.
Because like, I was like, not to be alarmed, but when nothing has been communicated for quite a while, that means that there's nobody here has ever thought about this scenario before.
Right.
And so I'm like, I don't want to be leaving when nobody's thought about, like, when it's like, y'all need to get the hell out of here.
Right.
So like, I kind of want to leave before that happens, and then they're like, then my friends they're like, we're cool, we're gonna hang out. I'm like, if you're not worried, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
But like,
and that was kind of the feeling. It was like, if the officials aren't worried, then I'm not worried. But at first it was like, they got off stage really quick, and that's like, I didn't hear any gunshots, so I don't think it's an active shooter. I feel like if it was an active shooter, somebody would have done something by now, or somebody would have told us something by now. So the silence, or the kind of weirdness of not knowing what was going on, and the fact that nobody around me was panicking either, made me feel calmer. That like, okay, this is maybe a contained situation, and there's nothing for us to worry about. But I was like, well, I need to go be a reporter. Like, I need to start figuring out what this is.
Yeah.
So I was in the stands watching the show, but my computer and stuff was set up in the press box. And so after like 2 minutes, I was like, I better get up to the press box. And then by that time, still, it was 10 minutes. It was 8:50 to 9 o'clock was the window of uncertainty. So by 9, they were back on and everything was fine. And he addressed it 2 or 3 times during the show, and that was it. And once they came out, it was clear that everything was fine. And even once like something came up on the video screens after like 4 minutes, and they were like, show paused, please await instructions or something like that. But like, I could tell that there was no reason for us to really be panicked, and so I felt okay. And then it was just about like figuring out what's going on. And then the show continued, and then like I felt like there was a little bit of ferocity coming through on Billy Joe for the rest of the night. I feel like
He's like, put away your cameras. We're to be
Yeah.
here right now.
He's like,
'Cause
yeah.
It took a moment. There was kind of a wall, and I liked seeing a performer because like everything is kind of perfect, everything's timed, and to see someone that's a professional like actually have to try and like get an audience back in an arena style show like that.
Stadium show
To get like the energy back, and he's jumping around off the speakers and like saying Detroit a ton.
Yeah.
And like just trying to kind of
That's
like
the Billy Joe playbook. Detroit.
are you with me?
Oh, yeah.
like all that call and response, like it's like
well, he's the right kind of performer for that, to have to overcome something like that. A lesser performer might be swallowed by that moment, but he's always been a really good call and response guy, audience interactivity guy. And so yeah, he had the challenge. He got him back pretty quickly. Everybody was, hey, it was a little hiccup.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be not a big deal at all as a drone. But it made for like an interesting. It was like he said it at the end of the night. It's like, we're never gonna forget this night or whatever. And it was true because there was some weirdness happening. They got off, like they rode in golf carts. They like left. They definitely left the stage. I don't know if they left the building, but it was weird there for a couple minutes.
Yeah. I was like, I saw some security like get more visual, but it was like, I don't like. It's kind of like the less you like it's like the airplane delayed scenario. Like the less you tell people, like, why isn't the plane taking off? Like, we'll let you know when you need to know.
Exactly.
And then people start coming up with narratives and stories and all this stuff. And like there's a gremlin on their wing. There's all this stuff.
Right.
And then it's like if you just tell them, you just communicate something, then those crazy stories are just be calmed down. But when it's just like silence, and then you just put like the screen like don't panic.
Yeah.
And it's just like
you don't have to panic. Like I don't. What's going on? Tell me something. And then nothing. Like the facts came out slowly over the course of the night. It's fine. But yeah, no, it was. It ended up being an interesting one.
Certainly, I've never experienced a show where it's been stopped like that, and then they have to continue the song, come back, and just like,
dude, they came back at the exact moment. If they were doing a live album that night, they could pick it up exactly where they were, because I think it was the end of the second chorus of Longview, and then he just picked it right up from there. Hold on, or whatever. It was great.
How do you approach a concert versus like a movie? How do you like? What is there a certain process? Is the writing process the same, or how do you go about like crafting an art?
Well, if I'm writing about a concert, it's usually on deadline, right after it happened. So it's just like.
Are you taking notes on your phone, or what's that process like?
No. In a notepad, in an old school notepad, pen and paper. And like movies, I have more time to sit on, to kind of noodle on. Concerts, you just got to write about it in the moment, and so just got to get in and out of it, and you got to hit the button on it. So it's deadline writing. It's just like a different discipline, and it's probably more fun as a writing exercise to write a movie review, just because you have more time to kind of like sit on it, play with words, play with sentences. Concerts on deadline, just trying to get it out real quickly.
Yeah, I mean, how has movies changed as a writer? Like, have you seen movies evolve in like 20-some years? Like, have you seen the filmmaker-driven movies to now like product move, like the franchise movie, and like less filmmaker-driven movies and more like the font movies, where like the font. The title card is the most important thing to the movie. Like seeing the title again, like seeing the Beetlejuice title of the Star Wars credit is more important.
Yeah, and that's like the just because I never cared about comic book movies as a kid, or comic books as a kid, so I never cared about the new superhero getting his own movie. It's never meant anything to me. And then I find it's difficult to get super excited about. But like, I understand that if you're a certain age and you're growing up, like Endgame was like this gigantic event.
Hey, have a great...
It
Well, I'll see you when
it's just different, right? Like that's not the world that I grew up or cared about, and so it doesn't matter to me that all these guys came together and they beat Thanos or whatever. It's cool. The movies were the movies were good, but it wasn't like a bigger event to me. And I think like a few years before that, like The Dark Knight was such a huge event for a lot of people. And I get it because it was like a transgressive Batman movie, and like the Joker was so Heath Ledger's Joker was like such a menacing, wild performance and a crazy figure. But just like those movies, I feel like I was born at the right time for me, where my light bulb moment was like True Romance and Pulp Fiction versus like Endgame or something. And I get it, times change, and for younger kids, this is going to be their gateway into things. I just don't know if that's going to lead them to Twin Peaks. But again, I'm old, so they don't have to see Twin Peaks. They've got other things that's going to interest them. I don't want to become a guy who like, this is the way that I did things, and so that is the correct way. It was just the correct way for me. And I'm happy the way that those things, what those things led me toward are my interests. But my interests as a 46-year-old are going to be a lot different than kids growing up today. And that's how it should be. I don't want to be like a weirdo old gatekeeper guy. This is just what I like and how I came to like it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know. Like, I feel like we were talking about earlier, like the Substance and Long Legs. We have these like this trend in like filmmakers that have a vision, kind of coming back into like making movies again that over like less filmmaker-driven movies. Like I don't like movies that come out. I'm like, I don't even know who made like this.
Right.
Looks like television. It just doesn't have a look, doesn't have a voice.
Right.
And when we have these movies that kind of break into the mainstream, and then like the reviews then move past like the cinephiles into like just the generic, like the general movie-going audience, like letting them know like, oh, you should check out this movie that maybe they see a movie like. They see 3 movies a year, and they're going to go see... Right.
Like if you see 3 movies a year and you accidentally saw Long Legs, I think that's awesome, because hopefully you're like, oh, man, what was it about that movie that... Why is it affecting me differently than these other things? Like, what was it about that? Was it the style? Was it the director? Hopefully that becomes the gateway. And even something like The Substance, if you don't normally see movies like The Substance and you for some reason do see The Substance, like I think it's an incredible gateway for like, if it affects your brain, to figure out why it did and maybe to go explore other things. And it probably won't happen, but maybe for somebody it will. And that's the good, that because a lot of people will see The Substance and be like, oh man, that was a messed up movie. But then like somebody's going to go down and go follow the rabbit hole. That's what you ultimately want. And then they start seeing these other things, and they start understanding, why that worked, or that there's, that David Cronenberg exists. And then you start looking at the Cronenbergs, and Cronenberg's going to lead you down this other pathway. That's what's cool about The Substance or Long Legs, is hopefully they guide you towards the next thing that's going to excite you, that's going to make you talk about movies the same way that we're talking about movies right now.
Yeah.
Not that everyone's going to do that, or not, there's movie guys, right? That's what you and I are, movie guys, and we are always chasing the thing. But maybe just a little piece of that infects the next person, that maybe they just look at movies slightly differently, or something about that experience triggers something in them where they're like, oh man, that was cool, and this is why it was cool, and they just know that next thing is cool, and maybe it's just different than Endgame is, or than Beetlejuice is. Like Beetlejuice, the first one was accidentally a huge movie that has touched generations, that is super weird, but it's mainstream enough that it doesn't seem super weird, but it's a very weird movie.
Yes.
In a good way. And that is and Tim Burton as a style was like somebody that everybody understood is a filmmaker with a vision, and with you can look at a frame of a movie, that's a Tim Burton movie. Like that's what's great about a Tim Burton, when he becomes so massive that people understand that like what films can do and what films can mean, and like how a sensibility of an individual can get like communicated on screen through story. Oh my God, Tim, you know, and then you're like, he was like the biggest filmmaker that was like an outsider, right? Like, like Spielberg is like pretty down the middle, but Tim Burton's an outsider. He's the kid that was like picked on in school, and he got to be big enough that his style became a brand. That's awesome. That doesn't happen that often. Even like John Waters is kind of put in a corner, but Tim Burton was making mainstream movies,
and like blockbuster
material,
making Batman
with his insane individual vision.
Yeah, he
made Batman, and they chose him to make Batman. What a fantastic choice! Like, these are real smart moves for the culture that kind of accidentally happened. Maybe it was purposeful, but like, and he could have whiffed on Batman and made something.
He was like 27 years old making this movie,
making Batman, and he delivers his vision of Batman, and that became the standard. And like, you know, you'll have your Nolan heads, but a lot of people will say that the first Batman is the Batman.
But you're taking Batman Returns.
Oh, I take Batman over Batman Returns. Okay. Do you take Batman Returns?
Oh,
I just haven't seen Batman Returns enough.
Okay.
I saw it I've seen it maybe twice, where Batman was like always on. I can't tell you any individual lines. I just haven't spent enough time with Batman Returns. But it was on HBO the other night. I was watching some pieces of it, and I know that I have to spend more time with Batman Returns.
That's like a 200% sequel for me. Like, I love like Gremlins 2 sequels, where it's like, you love the first one, we hate you, we're gonna do a whole different movie,
right?
And we're gonna change that style up, and we're gonna amplify everything. Like, we're gonna have like Penguin with like black goo in his mouth. We're gonna have penguins with rockets on their backs. We're gonna have Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Like, we're gonna have like these, like, like we're at Christmas time. We're gonna have all this like crazy moments.
We're gonna have Walken in it.
Christopher Walken, like, just like it's, it does everything like the episode of the first movie. But yeah, I grew up with Batman Returns. More and
dude, I
just
love
like
Batman and Robin.
Oh, I mean,
love Batman and Robin.
That's the best Batman movie.
Yeah,
because like every Batman movie except Batman and Robin does not, and they don't follow the comic books. Like, they don't, like, Batman and Robin's the golden age of Batman. It's campy.
Yeah.
Comic books for children. It's light and breezy. Like, it's like them jumping on type. I mean, it's like it's like a comic book movie, and it's following what comic books are, and it's over the top, and and even though it's camp and it's
so campy.
It's not Tim Burton, but it knows what it's doing constantly. Even though, like, George Clooney's just kind of walking through he's just like walking through, like, if he had done that after Out of Sight, but he's a movie star in Out of Sight. Yeah. If he had done Batman Robin after that, then he would have been a better Bruce Wayne Batman, because he's like he was.
Well, he's still doing this with his neck, like he's still doing ER. But like, Batman and Robin is so ridiculous, and it's the instant reaction was, this sucks. And it wasn't until later, like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Like, I remember when it came out in theaters, I remember seeing it a couple times, just to be like, did that really go as bad as I thought it did?
As a kid, I was like, I was like, whatever. I was like, this is bad. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And then later, you know, as camp kind of appreciates, and you look back at this thing that you can't believe that they made, and you can't believe he's got the rubber lips. And Batgirl's story is never quite comes together, but she's hanging around like the edges of the story.
Wilfred, you know, like his Alfred's brother.
Oh yeah.
That's the password or whatever.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Like the his love or whatever. God, it's so great. I think Batman and Robin is so much fun.
And it's like, oh, it's me, Barbara. I'm like, yeah, no, duh. You got the domino mask on. like,
yeah. Alicia's great. She's so great, and she does this thing at the end where they're like teaming up. They all put their hands in the middle, and she like gives this look to either Chris O'Donnell or George Clooney, and she does like her kind of the frown ends of her smile like turn up. Oh my god, it's just like it's like my favorite moment. And yeah, I remember like when we saw it in the theater the first time, the rubber lips, we just died. We just died in the theater. Yeah, dude, Batman and Robin, super fun. I've only seen Batman Forever like once. The previous Schumacher.
I like
Kilmer.
Yeah, I like that one as like that was also kind of a good mixture of camp and dark.
From the leap from Batman Forever to Batman and Robin was like
the style got cranked up
absolutely.
and then ripped off. That dial was just ripped off.
Absolutely. and Schwarzenegger is a riot, and all his lines are so
Let's
bad.
Kick some ice to meet
always you. Remember, winterize your pipes. It's like
chill.
Chill, and then Bane.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
The Ice Age. And then like he just jumps off that cliff from his jail cell into the water. It just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
I like Bane. I mean, like Bane getting mutated into like his body's jittering around. And, like when Uma Thurman gets killed and she comes back and she's out of the ground. Like that moment, but then she's like in this like drag queen costume, the whole like with like the dishwasher gloves with the painted nails on them. It's real, but
yeah, it's fantastic. I'd love to see that one like in an audience that loves it. That'd be super.
That's
that'd
a
be
fantasy.
Super, yeah, that'd be super fun to see it like now, either as part of a marathon or something else.
Yeah,
like I saw Spice World with a midnight audience. Maybe like 10 years ago in Ann Arbor. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like in an audience where everybody got it and everybody knew all the beats. It was one of my favorite movie going experiences I've ever had.
Again, like Spice World, it's 100%. Everything's on. It's like it puts it all out there.
Yeah.
It knows what it's doing. It knows the push. Like
it knows what it's doing more than you thought. More than you thought it knew what it was doing back when you first saw it. You have to come back to it over time, be like, oh my god, they really did know what they were doing. It's so good. When there's a shot earlier they're at rehearsals, and Mel B is wearing a spacesuit for no identifiable reason, and when that moment came up in the theater, like everybody died laughing, and that's when I was like, I knew I was for the next 2 hours, like I'm with my people on this one.
When they start changing out their costumes, they start mimicking each other's looks.
When they become each other, it's so great.
Or at the end where they're like, "You got to go home now."
Yeah.
Oh, you in the dress. You got to leave.
And there's a part when I think Posh Spice is driving the bus like through the city, and she goes, "Sunday drivers, and it's only Saturday." I find myself saying that all the time when I'm driving and like somebody's in my way. I'm like, "Sunday drivers, and it's only Saturday." I love that movie so much.
And Roger Moore.
Oh yeah, Roger Moore.
He
keeps saying insane things.
And he's like, "Yes, I'll be in it, but you got to work around me feeding my pig. I'm giving my pig milk. You got to work around my schedule with this."
And then he'll be like, "Only when the cat arrives is the nightfall at its most dark." It just like his catchphrases make no sense. Oh, it's fantastic.
And Bob Hoskins is in it.
Yeah, Hoskins is great. And he's Elton John's in it. Alan Cumming is fantastic in it.
Alan Cumming, I think somehow he knew to be in two great movies, Spice World and the Just and the Pussycats movie.
Oh my god!
And like both are like full till style. Like it does not like again like it doesn't sit 80%, 100%.
Yes.
Like and then like the audience catches up with it because it's like commenting on kind of that consumer music bro MTV culture was happening at that time, and like and like people, it was too like we weren't aware of that.
Spice World is right before TRL, and Josie and the Pussycats is like at the tail end of the TRL era. I didn't see Josie and the Pussycats until this year. It is fantastic. I cannot believe that all these years I did not have that movie in my brain. It is fantastic. All the Target logos all over the thing. It's hilarious. The songs are good. Rachel Lee Cook is super on point. It's Elfon and it's Cathlon and Elfon, the team that did Can't Hardly Wait, right? Deborah whatever the directors' names are. And I don't know if they've done a movie since. Josie and the Pussycats rules. It totally rules. I was so happy to find. I think I saw it on the Criterion Channel.
Oh,
it was on there earlier this year. For some reason, Josie and the Pussycats was on the Criterion Channel.
Because there's like it's on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
There's like a DVD on Amazon that's like not official.
Yeah.
And we can get that, but there's 2 cuts. There's like the family. No, sorry. That's Spice World. Spice World does 2 cuts. There's like Spice
There's
World.
a different Spice World cut.
There's like a family-friendly version, and then like a PG-13.
Okay.
That's not available. Like there's like a unofficial DVD release of Spice World's not available.
It's on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray.
Yeah, but the DVD is like not an official release. There's like someone's like making their own copy on Amazon or something. It's not official like Sony Pictures released.
I do have a version of it. I'm gonna check it when I get home.
Okay.
I'm gonna check what it is when I get home. But it came on like a sparkly DVD slipcase.
Oh, maybe that's original. Maybe original.
I feel like it's a legit release. When I worked at Blockbuster Video, when Spice World came out on VHS, and so we got like 50 or 60 copies in the store, and every VHS copy came with a Spice World poster. I took them all, and I think I still have them. I still have like 50 or 60 Spice World posters that I got from Blockbuster Video in the summer of 1998. Maybe it was 99. Maybe it came out in theaters in 98 and it was on VHS in 99. Either way, I still have them.
Or the military scene where
Oh yeah.
with like
we
General
are Spice Girls. Yeah, it's fantastic. In Mr. Step. Are you the dance teacher, Mr. Step? And he's like, don't, and he's like whipping them into dancing shape. It's the best. Spice World is the best. Like that is like, yeah. If I had a theater and money wasn't an issue and I could program whatever I want, I would just play like that just campy things all the time, like Batman and Robin and Spice World. And then I'd throw them like a Mulholland Drive or something like that, which is probably the things that like when you were dreaming of having a movie theater, you were like, I'm gonna play whatever I want all the time.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, it's a little bit of like you kind of have to be more dialed in, like more tuned into like balancing. Like that's part of like each month it's kind of like the playlist you're curating is like what audience is coming in right now. Like we played this kid's movie. Okay, we're gonna go to more indie. We're playing this horror movie, like our 12-hour horror movie.
Are you playing The Wild Robot?
We're playing that right now.
Yeah.
So
that's gonna bring them in. That's what you need to do.
And like so, like kids like that. Like I heard like that was a popular kids book.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, we'll play that. We're gonna play Terrifier 3. we're gonna tonight we have Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's like.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So it's like, like you're kind of you don't want to stay with one audience for too long.
Yeah.
And like that inconsistency, I know like we're hard to kind of put into a box because it's like 2 weeks it's Wild Robot, then it's Terrifier 3, then it's Joker 2, and
right.
So like because there's only 2 screens. Like when parents want to show up and see is there a kids movie playing? No, you have Terrifier 3, then we have a kids movie. We're not there because like it's hard to you have to kind of be sign up for a newsletter or go to our website or like
right.
You kind of have to know what we're doing all the time, and we're not always going to hit that audience member at the moment they need to with that movie. But
right.
I do put a lot of time in like trying to like how the month, if you see everything we're playing, like how it does evolve through the whole every day.
You look at it like by the month. You like here's what I'm programming through the month.
Yeah, I mean like you have to because like the new movies you can't schedule, like you can't get them booked that far out, like maybe a couple weeks, or if it's like a big movie where like Sony's already programming Venom 3 because they know that's going to be out like 3,000 screens, so like they're going to say yes right away. Where like the new Sean Baker movie, they're going to maybe stagger that release over a little bit. So like if I email them about the Neon about it, they're going to be like, well, it comes out in October in these New York, LA or whatever, and then like maybe you'll get it early November or mid-November. Like they're kind of have this rolling release that I don't understand why that exists anymore, but like they kind of want to like stagger some of those things, or like even like that Saturday Night Live movie that's coming out. How they're doing a staggered release for awards. I don't know why they're just.
Well, when the pandemic hit and like movie distribution got totally screwed, and then some things were just debuting online, I felt like maybe we are getting away from like city to city platforming, and we can just give audiences the movie on the date. Like, and maybe this is better. Maybe we've been doing distribution wrong all these years, and then it just went right back to, you know,
Nothing learned.
nothing. Well, for an audience member, like, even if you wanted to see like Sing Sing, like,
Did you where did that play?
I think it played in Ann Arbor
Yeah.
for at least a week. But dude, this is like a big awards play, and no one was able to see it. Like,
Yeah.
no actual people were able to go out to the theater and see it. I feel like Honora is going to get to more people eventually, but the old school way to do it is to platform it, you know, and put it here and then here and then here. I think platforming made more sense in a different time in our world, and with, you know, less art screens to do things on, it's harder to. I just want to see Honora. I just want to see Honora. Help me see Honora. Like I just want to see Honora.
Platforming worked like in the days before the internet, like where they'd have, like I remember like opening the newspaper up in the entertainment section, and like seeing those big movie ads with like the review, like the poll quotes, and like they were polling like New York, LA reviewers, and but like just put it out there.
I just want to see Honora.
Yeah.
Like, help me see Honora. Or if you're not going to put it in theaters, like, help me see it online really easily. Like, I would pay $20 to go home and watch Honora tonight. I would pay $25 to go home and watch Honora tonight. I would probably pay $35 to go home and watch Honora. I can watch Honora tonight. I would pay $35 to do that. Let me watch Honora. All I want to do is see Honora. These movies are completed. like and I understand a release strategy. I understand that we're in the business of making money, and in order to do that, you need to create awareness and hype and all these things. But I just want to see Saturday Night. I just want to see Joker 2. I just want to see what's Brady Corbett's movie? The Brutalizer. I just want to see The Brutalizer. Help me see all these movies as quickly and as easily as possible. I want to mainline them all. Let me see these movies. That's all I want to do.
Is there anything that you
can you get Sean Baker to come to your theater? I feel like Sean Baker, you know, he's on this tour where he's taking pictures of all the marquees of the independent theaters he's seeing the movies. I feel like if you were to invite Sean Baker, you might get a response.
Yeah. So what do you think of like the Metro Detroit movie theater and indie scene with like the main art gone and the maple gone?
It's difficult. It's you know, like some of the chains are picking up some of the movies that have fallen through the cracks, but it's you lose the culture. We've lost like the culture of art houses in the area, and there's been a bunch of stuff that's fallen by the wayside as a result, like you know, stuff that just doesn't come here, or stuff that comes here and plays, you know, like a off theater. It's just, you know, we had a good thing, and dude, I wouldn't love movies the way that I do if I didn't have the main art theater to go to as a kid growing up, where anything that you went and saw, you knew was going to be kind of cool because it was playing there. It was just like it fostered an environment of film and love of film that you can't get the same way at like the chains. It's just different. You know, you go to the chains for a different thing, and they're great for that. But
in my car.
Is that yours?
Yeah.
The Toyota? Yeah, he bumped you.
Okay.
Those
things were already there. That
it was like a love tap. It was a bit of a love tap.
We kiss a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a kiss. But yeah, losing that, you lose more than just the theater. You lose the culture around the theater, and that's what we've been deficient of as the Maine went down, the Maple went down, and Cinema Detroit went down. Or Cinema Detroit is now a touring thing that shows up at a couple different spots, but it's just it's not the same. It sucks. And the same way that like you would think that the internet would have replaced some of these things, or the idea of the internet would have, but it's not the same. It's not the same as like going out and grabbing, you know, candy in the lobby at a small art house theater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
it's a real bummer. It's made cool things harder to find, and it's made like cool people that like movies and you want to hang around just like more difficult to find. It's a bummer.
And I think like the movie chains, they don't put movies first. Like they put like everything else first. They put the chairs first. They put the screen first. They're putting pickleball courts in the theaters. If you saw that article or not, like
Yeah.
they're like, I know you can't control the movies, but like, like when I go into a movie theater, like I want to see movie posters. I don't want to see play ads, but like for the historic hall theater, like we play like vintage drive-in ads between our ads, or like goofy cartoons, or
the individual touch is lost. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Like the things that you can do, the chains aren't going to do. And I like the screens at the chains, and I like the theater. I like the seats. I like those things a lot, you know. But it's different than an individual touch that you get at a mom and pop or like at an art house. You trade those things, and that's not worth the trade.
or like, I don't know. I'm looking at like how concerts are compared to movie theaters. Like, what can movie theater owners pick up from what concerts are doing now? Like, it just seems like concerts are being filled. They're selling out. Movies aren't. They are getting people again, but it's not the same engagement.
Right.
Like concerts, you go when you hear the hits, you hear the same song played over again. There's maybe like a VIP thing, like meeting the musicians, or you're getting a poster or getting a thing like. So that added value that could be at movie theaters, like bringing movie stars back to movie theaters, like movie stars could care less about movie theaters,
Right.
and like when they're being interviewed about a movie.
Except Nicole Kidman.
Oh, Nicole Kidman, yeah, she loves movies. She likes watching movies by herself, and
AMC's.
and like they should have leaned into that more, like done like ironically made some with her, like ironically like AMC should have like listened to the internet and just like had her come back and like.
I think she did a second round of spots. I'm not sure if she did. But yeah, I think that the advantage that concerts have is you get one shot. You get one shot. Sabrina Carpenter's not playing in town for 3 straight weeks, 5 times a day. You get one shot to go, right? Where The Substance is playing at a bunch of different theaters, X number of times a day. And so there's the eventization of a one-shot concert on this night only it's a totally different model, and it's difficult to like one-to-one it. You know what I'm saying?
Where you're just like something like if it's like added, like if you know that like cinephiles are like kind of like the Coppola screening on Monday, like
exactly
how they did this.
That was a packed screening, or it wasn't packed, but I turned around and there was a healthy amount of people there, and I was thinking about that because that night particularly was an event screening. That was different than just going to see it. We had the live participant, and that I don't know how you build that, but that was an event version. It's the same thing when they did. They eventually released Stop Making Sense into theaters on IMAX, but the first night they did it was the same thing. It was beamed from the New York Film Festival.
Yeah,
it was Q&A with the guys, and I think that was a packed screening. That's a good thing that they've done out of the New York Film Festival the last 2 years. Is create a one night IMAX event with a film that they're showing there. That's a start, and adding the Q&A to it, and however much tickets were, that's like an event screening. It's hard to do, and like I don't know if that event screening helps you because you had to go to the AMC as a ticket buyer. You couldn't show it at your theater.
Yeah.
But that's something, and that was for us here. That was the time to go see Megalopolis, and you're in it with a bunch of people. People are laughing. People are. Yeah. Like that was the best place to see that one at.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the concert version of Megalopolis. It's just harder to do unless you have like a Q&A or an IMAX or some sort of presentation of something available to do. I don't know. But yeah, the idea that how do we take what's successful about a concert, how do we use that energy and kind of import it over to movies is like, it's a good question to ask. You know?
Like just like listening, like looking at like what if like cinephiles and what they want to go to a movie for, like if it's like, like behind the scenes it plays beforehand, or pre-taped Q&A, or
Right.
or they get like when you get a movie ticket, you get the digital file of the movie with it, or like.
Well, the
Oh,
popcorn
stuff
buckets have been somewhat interesting.
Yeah, the popcorn phenomenon. Like,
Yeah.
like I have some friends that they go around finding popcorn buckets and reselling them on eBay, and like.
Yeah, that didn't exist a year ago.
Yeah.
Or maybe it just started to a year ago. But those have their own energy and culture around them. And that's another positive, because you can't go get that at Rite Aid or Target. You got to go to the movie theater, and hopefully you're seeing a movie, and hopefully you're putting popcorn in it as well.
Get that alien popcorn bucket head.
Yeah, the alien popcorn head. I think there's a Terrifier one.
Yeah, with the Santa Claus head thing.
That's a good thing. That's smart, and that's new. So there's a few things out there that that they're trying, that are working. Can always, it's people are using their heads. It's a start. I don't know if it's like the last gasp or if it's a start, but there's a few things out there.
Yeah.
That are getting people to the theater, and I don't know. It's like the conversation around movies seems to be healthy, and there's always something that people are talking about. There's the movie, the discussion. Focal point of the week or of the 2 weeks. There's always something, and then it kind of moves as the next thing comes along. But there seems to always be like a pretty healthy conversation online about what is the thing that people are talking about, or what is the cool thing that we need to pay attention to right now. And that's pretty healthy.
Like Deadpool Wolverine. That movie was on TikTok. I think the week it came out, you could watch the key scenes on TikTok, or people filming the scenes and then reacting to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe this is the way to go about engaging with an audience that might watch content on their phone or might not go to movies that often, is translating this movie to this medium and engaging it this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because I don't know if that helps bring people in, then absolutely. And I think that people engage with stuff through TikTok, or people engage with stuff through their phones where it wouldn't have made sense, but that is the culture now. So if the Channing Taylor spoiler back in when I was growing up, you wouldn't want to know about it, but now you already know about it and you want to go see it. The surprise is the juice for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Channing Tatum was in this thing, but now you already know and you want to go see it because you want to say the line, or you want to hear him say the line. I guess that's just it's a slightly different way to engage, and that's what makes sense today. What is this? He says, "I'm about to make a name for myself here." You want to go see that thing where I saw it and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know he was in it, and now he's saying these things." That was for me, that was the excitement. If I would have felt bad if I didn't know, if I got spoiled for me, I would have been pissed. Yeah. But that's just because I approach things differently, and I'm used to things my own way. I don't want it to be spoiled. I want it to be fresh. The spoiler's not the thing. It's engaging with the spoiler in your own way. Oh, I got to see it too.
Yeah.
And then I got to make my own video. I got to do the line, whatever. It's just, the culture has shifted, probably in a positive way. That was a huge movie, and people loved that moment. It wasn't like the reveal of the moment was the moment. It was engaging with it afterwards. So that's a good thing.
I think also with Barbie, the people dressing up in the culture around a movie. I think that's a takeaway. Having that culture being built up around it, not necessarily the movie.
No.
The movie itself, the plot.
No. You're totally right. And in Barbie, I remember last summer, weeks afterwards, going to see something else, and there were 2 women in the lobby dressed in all pink going to see Barbie because they wanted to go have the experience while it was still in theaters. And this, I think Barbie opened July 21st. This was probably early September, but they still wanted to do the thing. And that's incredible that there's a thing to go do, and that Barbie brought in this idea that you can engage with it through your style of dress.
Or even Beetlejuice like that. The first weekend, women were dressing up in Beetlejuice costumes and Beetlejuice style
Well, that's like the Eras tour, and that's like the Sabrina Carpenter show. Like people were dressed for those things, and that's another way to engage with it, to like go out and have a night. Like when you went and saw Barbie, you went with your friends, a group of you all dressed up, and you went and had the full experience, outfits and everything. And that is like the culture that I don't remember people, putting on suits to go see Pulp Fiction when I was a kid. We weren't doing that. That's like a different way, and that brings in the social media aspect of it, because then you can post a picture of you and your friends doing the thing, and that is all. At the end of the day, you're going to the movies. You're going to see the movie to engage with it, and that is like a total win for the movies when you can get those things that people want to engage with beyond just sitting there in the seat. If you engage with it by wearing an outfit to the theater, or by buying the popcorn bucket and engaging with the popcorn bucket, all these things are like, it's way different, and it's way more interactive than just going to see the thing and then having some thoughts about it in the car ride on your way home. Like the social media aspect of it brings out another level of engagement, and that is like, that's what the movies need, is to have those things. Even like the Gentle Minions thing, like you wear your suit to go see the Minions thing, that works. The way that like Oppenheimer and Barbie together was an event, that works. There isn't one of those things for Megalopolis. Maybe that was the marketing.
You're not dressing up in a Robin Hood costume.
That would be the outfit to wear. Would be the or to shave your eyebrows like Shia, and like draw some, like keep changing your eyebrows every time he changes his eyebrows in the movie. But yeah, if you're able to have like Beetlejuice, exactly, people were dressing up as either their favorite character from the first one, or putting on the pants, whatever. Absolutely, that's what you need in order to like make your movie an event beyond just the movie itself. And that's, how do we engage with it past that? How do you make it a thing that you want to participate in beyond just buying the ticket?
Here's episode 6, featured musician Mirrorvein with the song Funeral Drenched.
My name is Mike. I am Mirrorvein, and this song is called Funeral Drenched. It's a Hellmouth remix. I love those guys. I've known them forever. And I did this in 2011 originally, when I was doing the Andaria album for Home Alone, which was just all really synthy glitch metal destruction. And so that started off 13 years ago there, and now I've finished it up and the band has released it officially. So excited about that.
Where can people find that song online?
They can find it on Apple Music, on Spotify. I know that Hellmouth has it on their Bandcamp. So yeah, it's pretty much on all the streaming stuff. I think I kept it off some of the little weird ones that are just all over the world, but mostly just the main big ones. You can find anything Mirrorvein and Home Alone and Hellmouth.
And what inspired this song? What was the? It felt like a song like I'd hear at Necto or something on Industrial Night, or I don't know.
You think so? That's kind of what I was going through, was a lot of industrial at the time. Like I said, it was 2011. Skrillex was huge. So I was kind of really learning a lot of software for like bass and dubstep and stuff like that, because that was just, I never had a dubstep side project, but I incorporated a lot of the elements of it into my music in that time. And so this, especially, you can hear in the production, just the guitars are just chopped and pasted and glitched, and I know that's what they sound like. It's not supposed to sound like it's a band playing. It's supposed to sound like it's a manufactured song by like robots. So yeah, it does that. And I changed the beginning so it has like a really lo-fi cassette tape basement recording, like a crappy '93 black metal recording, and then it just zooms in and punches you in the face with the remix, and it's like, it just came out so good. I think that those guys are possessed though, because I was working on that song in my car. That's where I was mastering it. I brought I do goofy things. I had my laptop out in my car with a microphone, and I was actually playing the song through my speakers in my Mustang because they just fucking rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recording that so I could try to do an echo over everything with the car recording. And when I started playing it, my car shut down, like completely died. So I don't know about that.
It's a curse.
But I mean, yeah. I was like, play, and then battery was just like, fuck this. Getting out of this Voodoo Ranger.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So anything that people should listen to in Funeral?
Funeral Drenched?
Yeah.
I did a lot of cool manipulations with Jay's vocals. Like when it all comes in, there's like a really lower level that I put like a robot tone over, and then a really high one, so there's like over. It's just, his scream sounds so brutal right there. But yeah, other than that, I just used all the real drums, the bass, the guitar, and threw a bunch of keyboards over it because I've always loved like the old Hollywood orchestral kind of stuff. So there's always some sort of violins or orchestral or elements over my music, and there's a lot of it in this one. So.
So Dee and I just saw A Complete Unknown at a preview screening at the AMC IMAX, and I think we both love it.
5 star.
5 stars about from Dean. Yeah, you can totally tell this will probably be up for Oscars. The acting was great. Clearly, Bob Dylan fans will love it. We got a free poster and lanyard. They did a Q&A after that was pre-recorded with most of the cast. And so I recommend A Complete Unknown. And before we go, this is kind of a Christmas time, December time kind of episode. Can I pitch you my Grinch 2 sequel idea?
Absolutely.
Dean? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So before we go, it's a Christmas time. So my sequel idea to The Grinch is the sequel to the cartoon movie that came out a couple years ago, the animated Illumination movie. So my sequel idea is called Drenched. And now that the Grinch, all the Who's, the Grinch's heart grew much bigger. Now he loves everybody. He's a nice guy. But this has been years since the first movie. So there's been a generation of Who's that haven't really known the Grinch as being a mean guy. And so he's the nicest person in Whoville. He's actually the nicest person. All the Who's love him. He's always there for all of them. But now the Who's are being attacked by some other character, some mean character, and they don't know how to protect themselves. And some people talk about how mean the Grinch used to be. And now the Who's have to kind of poke at him and make him angry again so he can now defeat the mean forces of Whoville that have come to them. And so the Who's go out of their way to kind of bring that anger out of him like it was before in different ways. And they kind of want him to be the Grinch that he was from the first movie. So he finally breaks, his heart shrinks, he gets angry again. He kind of reenacts the first movie again and defeats the villain of the movie. And he's now mean. He's permanently mean again. He doesn't go back to being nice. And so the Who's are all happy, even though he's terrorizing them again like the first movie. They are secretly happy that he came back to protect them, and there's no going back. So that was kind of the switch in them. So they're happy, but he's like slithering through the family room, stealing the gifts and all that stuff. So they're like weirdly enjoying him being mean again at the end of the movie. So that's my sequel to Grinch. It's called Grinched. So, well, yep. So that's another episode of the FilmTell podcast. I edited the podcast. I interviewed the guests. I did it all. And we're recording this in my car after we saw A Complete Unknown that comes out. And I highly recommend it. So what's the next movie you're interested in seeing?
I would love to see Grinched.
Oh, my movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's Christmas, buddy.
It is Christmas. My favorite Christmas movie, that's not like a traditional Christmas movie, is Batman Returns.
Okay.
But, well, that's the episode. We'll see you in the next one.